Welcome to our channel, The Story of Civilization, where we explore the wonders of general world history. If you enjoy learning about the past, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. Don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss an update. Today, we will explore the legendary kingdom of Prester John. Let's start with a brief overview before diving into the details. In the heart of the medieval world, a legend stirs, a tale of a mighty Christian king, Prester John, who rules a vast and powerful kingdom hidden from the eyes of Europe. For centuries, explorers, missionaries, and adventurers have scoured the globe, searching for this fabled realm, believing it to be the key to salvation and victory over their Muslim enemies. The kingdom is said to be rich beyond measure, home to treasures and secrets that could reshape the course of history. Yet, it remains elusive, a mystery that defies all attempts to uncover its truth. But what if the legend is not just a myth, but a carefully crafted riddle? What if the kingdom of Prester John isn't just a distant land waiting to be discovered, but a clever illusion, one that is far closer than anyone dares to admit? As rumors spread of this Christian kingdom in the Far East, or mysterious Africa, tensions rise between the great powers of Europe. Every rumor, every whispered tale from distant lands, fuels the fire of conquest. Kings and queens, scholars and explorers, all dream of finding Prester John. But behind every map, behind every mission to the east, lies a shocking truth. The legend of Prester John may have been orchestrated by those seeking to manipulate Europe's desire for dominance. The first twist in the tale comes when an ancient correspondence is discovered, a letter supposedly written by Prester John himself. But what if this letter isn't what it seems? Was it truly from the legendary king, or was it a ploy to rally European support for an entirely different agenda? The letter, filled with promises of allies and riches, sends shockwaves through Europe. Its authenticity is debated, and suddenly, no one is sure who Prester John really was or where he reigned. As explorers venture deeper into Asia and Africa, they uncover strange clues, each more bizarre than the last. Some believe they have found his kingdom in the misty mountains of India, while others insist it lies in the heart of Ethiopia. But every discovery seems to bring more confusion than clarity. Is the kingdom a real place, or an elaborate game played by those who want to control the destiny of Europe? Then, a final shocking twist. The kingdom of Prester John is not a distant, hidden realm at all, but a well-known land right under Europe's nose. Ethiopia, a land with its own long-standing Christian monarchy, embraces the myth of Prester John to rally European support against common enemies. In this unexpected revelation, the myth becomes a political tool, carefully maintained by the Ethiopian emperor to secure alliances and protection. The kingdom of Prester John was never an exotic land waiting to be discovered. It was a message, an illusion built to unite the Christian world and to ensure that Ethiopia, a Christian stronghold in Africa, would never be forgotten. As the truth comes to light, the legend fades into history, but its legacy lives on. Prester John may not have been the king of a hidden empire, but his name has remained engraved in the minds of explorers, a symbol of both hope and deception, a legend that changed the course of history. Let's discuss in detail. Topic 1. The mystery unfolds. In the shadow of Europe's great cathedrals and cobblestone streets, the murmurs of a powerful, hidden kingdom begin to circulate, a kingdom ruled by Prester John, a Christian king whose realm is said to be overflowing with riches and secrets beyond anyone's wildest imagination. This mythical kingdom, nestled in the unexplored lands of the East or the heart of Africa, has been the subject of rumors for decades, and now, with the growing power of Christianity, these whispers take on new urgency. The promise of salvation and a powerful Christian stronghold deep within enemy territory fuels a fervor that sweeps through the courts of kings, scholars, and explorers alike. The very idea of such a kingdom, untouched by Muslim forces and brimming with wealth, sends shockwaves across Europe. It becomes more than just a fantasy, it is a beacon, a dream of uniting Christendom and striking a blow against the enemies that threaten the faith. Kings and queens dream of forming alliances with this hidden ruler. Explorers take up the mantle of seeking out the fabled land, and the greatest minds of Europe scramble to decipher ancient texts and maps that hint at the kingdom's existence. Prester John's kingdom, if real, could change the course of history, providing a powerful ally and a treasure trove of resources to secure Europe's future. But as the pursuit begins, the story takes a sharp turn. The first troubling hint arises when those who venture into the far-flung regions in search of Prester John's kingdom return with disquieting reports. Every piece of evidence gathered is tantalizing, but none lead to a definitive location. Some claim they have seen signs of the kingdom, others speak of encountering strange symbols or hearing conflicting stories from different cultures. The deeper explorers dig, the more elusive the kingdom becomes. Maps are drawn, clues are followed, but no one seems able to pinpoint its exact location. Whispers grow louder, perhaps this kingdom is not a real, hidden empire, but a cleverly crafted tale, designed to manipulate the imaginations of those desperate for a solution to their problems. Doubt starts to creep in. What if Prester John was never meant to be found? What if the kingdom was simply a myth, an elaborate ruse to distract, deceive, or even unite Europe under false pretenses? The pursuit, once full of hope, now takes on an air of uncertainty as explorers, motivated by greed and the need for validation, begin to wonder whether the legend was more than just a story designed to capture their desires for power and conquest. Tropic 2, a kingdom born of hope. The myth of Prester John has transcended mere legend and evolved into something far grander, an obsession, a dream shared by kings, explorers, and dreamers alike. As news of his hidden kingdom spreads across Europe, the tale grows in stature, and it's no longer just about a distant Christian ally or a land of unimaginable wealth. The kingdom is said to hold not only riches but sacred knowledge. Ancient wisdom capable of changing the world and altering the balance of power. It is a land where the possibilities are endless, where treasures beyond imagination wait to be discovered. The allure is irresistible. Explorers prepare to embark on dangerous journeys, braving unknown territories, armed with maps full of conjecture and hopes that the clues will lead them to the fabled kingdom. Adventurers and scholars dedicate themselves to unearthing every scrap of information they can find, while kings and queens in distant courts make plans to secure their place in the alliance that could alter the future of Europe. Every new lead, every whisper from the east, fuels the fire, and the search for Prester John becomes an undertaking of monumental proportions. As kingdoms and explorers begin to focus their resources on the hunt, the promise of salvation through this mythical kingdom unites Europe's fragmented factions. The idea of a powerful Christian empire, hidden from the world for so long, is a rallying cry for all who seek to overcome their enemies and fortify their dominion. Prester John, in their minds, represents a beacon of hope. A final chance to unite Christendom and claim victory over the ever-growing forces of Islam, with alliances and riches to bolster their efforts. However, as the expeditions ramp up and the search intensifies, a new and more troubling realization begins to emerge. The discovery of Prester John's kingdom no longer seems like a simple mission for treasure, it becomes a chess game for control of Europe's fate. The wealth and knowledge promised by the kingdom are no longer seen as mere bonuses. They are keys to a much greater game. Kings, once united in their hope for salvation, begin to see the kingdom not only as a means of securing power over their enemies but as a way to tip the balance of European politics in their favor. The pursuit of Prester John's kingdom becomes a tool of manipulation. The most powerful European rulers realize that, if they are the ones to first discover and establish contact with this legendary kingdom, they would hold the key to unrivaled influence. Not only over the wealth and knowledge of Prester John's realm but over the politics of Europe itself. The search is no longer a quest for salvation, it is a race for dominance, a competition to control the destiny of the continent. As alliances begin to form around the idea of Prester John, it becomes clear that the kingdom may be a weapon in the hands of the most cunning rulers, and the once sacred hope of salvation has shifted into a dangerous game of political ambition and power. Tropic 3, the letter from the king. The hunt for Prester John takes a dramatic turn when an ancient letter is discovered in a dusty archive of a European monastery. This letter, supposedly penned by Prester John himself, is filled with grand promises, alliances with powerful Christian nations, access to unimaginable riches, and knowledge that could alter the course of history. The contents are nothing short of tantalizing. Prester John's kingdom is real, it seems, and it is offering to come to the aid of the fractured kingdoms of Europe. The letter reignites hope, breathing life into the legend that has consumed Europe for decades. For many, it is a confirmation that the kingdom exists, that the fabled king is real, and that Europe's salvation may finally be at hand. Explorers and scholars rush to decipher every word of the letter, analyzing its language and cryptic references. They pore over the seals, the parchment, and the ink, looking for clues that might indicate its authenticity. Kings and queens alike send their emissaries to investigate, eager to seize on this new lead. The letter is passed from court to court, becoming the centerpiece of diplomatic discussions. It fuels the fires of ambition, and the search for Prester John intensifies once more, this time with even greater urgency. However, with every passing day, doubts begin to creep in. As scholars debate its origins, some begin to suspect that the letter is a carefully crafted hoax. Its impeccable timing, arriving at the height of European unrest and the growing desire for a powerful ally, seems too convenient. Could it be that someone, or some group, fabricated the letter to manipulate Europe's powers for their own gain? A small but growing faction of skeptics argues that the letter is a ploy to rally Europe's greatest kingdoms into action. Action that could shift the balance of power in ways no one truly understands. The letter, once the key to the myth's validation, now becomes a puzzle in itself. Its promises of riches and power might be a mirage, designed to entrap the most ambitious and power-hungry rulers. Some suspect that the letter was written by an unknown player, perhaps a rival kingdom, a rogue political faction, or even a group of European elites hoping to steer the continent toward their own political agenda. The contents of the letter are so enticing that they might be nothing more than bait, luring Europe's greatest powers into a dangerous game of trust and manipulation. As the authenticity of the letter is questioned, a dangerous new possibility emerges. What if the kingdom of Prester John never existed at all? What if it was a myth created not to unite Christian kingdoms, but to divide them, to set them against each other in a race for dominance? The letter, once seen as a sign of hope, now threatens to be a key piece of a much darker puzzle. Tropic 4. The search intensifies. The feverish hunt for Prester John's kingdom deepens as adventurers, scholars, and missionaries venture into the most remote and uncharted regions of Africa and Asia. The once glamorous idea of a hidden Christian empire now seems within reach, and each new clue brings with it a surge of excitement and anticipation. The whispers of its existence travel faster than the explorers themselves, with rumors flooding back to Europe. Some claim that they have spotted Prester John's kingdom in the snow-capped mountains of India, while others suggest it lies within the dense, unexplored jungles of Africa, untouched by outsiders. As the search spreads to these far-flung places, the legend of Prester John morphs, growing ever more fantastical. New theories emerge, some more wild than others. His kingdom could be hidden in the mist-covered valleys of Tibet, or nestled in a hidden oasis somewhere in the Sahara. Explorers follow the trail of rumors, mapping uncharted territories, and drawing lines across continents. The promise of salvation, treasure, and alliances drives them onward. Each discovery, each new lead, adds another layer to the myth. The search becomes an obsession, a dangerous and all-consuming quest to unravel what might be the greatest mystery in the world. But as the days turn into months and the months into years, the journey grows more complicated. Each new lead seems promising at first, but it always leads to dead ends. One explorer reports seeing strange symbols carved into a cliffside, believed to be a sign of Prester John's kingdom, but no kingdom appears. Another claims to have found an ancient temple, adorned with Christian iconography, hidden deep within the jungles of Africa, but no kingdom can be found. As the explorers push deeper into these lands, they find themselves lost in a labyrinth of contradictions. The closer they get, the more elusive the kingdom becomes. Where once the image of Prester John's grand empire seemed vivid and clear, it now fades into a haze of confusion. The once hopeful promise of a Christian kingdom, overflowing with riches and wisdom, is replaced by the growing realization that the clues are not leading to salvation, but to frustration and doubt. What once seemed like a path toward discovery now feels like a series of distractions, carefully placed to mislead. Doubts begin to plague the minds of the explorers. Could the kingdom be nothing more than a fable, a fabrication? Every lead seems more tenuous than the last, and the evidence continues to fade into nothing. What if the kingdom of Prester John was never real at all? The once clear image of a hidden empire is now a blurry dream, and the searchers are left questioning whether they've been chasing shadows this whole time. The search that began with hope and ambition now feels like an elaborate farce, and the legend that once sparked fires of passion now leaves only ashes. Tropic 5. The Hidden Hand. As the search for Prester John grows more frantic and the myth becomes further entangled with the ambitions of explorers, scholars, and rulers, political tensions in Europe begin to rise. What began as a simple quest for a fabled kingdom has evolved into something far greater, a tool in the hands of those seeking to manipulate the course of history. The myth of Prester John, once a story told around campfires and in royal courts, now becomes a powerful rallying cry for factions vying for power. Kings and queens, desperate to secure their place in the changing balance of Europe, begin to use the idea of Prester John's kingdom as a weapon. To some, the legend is the perfect way to unite their fractured kingdoms, to inspire their people with the hope of a powerful Christian ally who could help them fight against foreign invaders. Prester John's name, now synonymous with salvation and glory, is used to inspire fervor among the common folk, who are told that their king has the secret to a brighter future, an alliance with a king who rules over a kingdom of untold riches and wisdom. But for others, the legend is more than just a tale to rally the people, it becomes a political tool, carefully manipulated behind the scenes. European powers, sensing the opportunity to use the search for Prester John to their advantage, begin playing a dangerous game of deceit and manipulation. Secret alliances are formed under the guise of exploring the legend, but the true motives are far darker. The kingdom of Prester John, once seen as a beacon of hope, is now a symbol of control, a means to stir the masses and direct them toward the agendas of the elite. What the general public does not realize is that the myth of Prester John is being carefully shaped by individuals who have their own agendas. Powerful figures within Europe, ambitious leaders, scheming nobles, and shadowy advisors, are using the legend to sow discord among rival factions and to manipulate the public sentiment for their own gain. Some factions spread false information about the location of Prester John's kingdom, hoping to force the hand of rival kingdoms. Others secretly use the myth to fund their own military campaigns, cloaking their true intentions behind the guise of religious and cultural unity. As the people rally around the name of Prester John, little do they know that the very legend they've come to believe in is being twisted by unseen hands. It is no longer just a quest for discovery, it has become a weapon of political warfare, a tool used to bend the course of European history in favor of those who understand how to control the myth. The more Prester John's name is invoked, the more it becomes a symbol not of unity, but of division, dividing the people, dividing kingdoms, and manipulating the future of Europe itself. Topic 6. The Ethiopian Connection. As the search for Prester John grows more desperate and the trail grows colder, an unexpected and intriguing turn of events begins to take shape. A group of explorers, whose journeys have led them through the deserts and jungles of Africa, starts to focus their attention on a kingdom much closer to Europe's doorstep, Ethiopia, a long-standing Christian stronghold in the heart of Africa. The idea that Prester John's kingdom might not be some distant, hidden empire in the far reaches of Asia or the mysterious East, but a well-known territory right under Europe's nose, begins to take hold. Ethiopia, a land that has embraced Christianity for centuries, becomes a surprising yet compelling candidate for the legendary kingdom. Could it be that the Ethiopian monarchy has been hiding its own power and influence all along, carefully playing along with the myth of Prester John to protect itself from potential invaders? Some whisper that the kingdom of Prester John was never a lost empire at all, but rather a strategic narrative carefully nurtured by Ethiopian rulers to secure alliances and garner European support for their own kingdom's survival in an increasingly hostile world. As the theory begins to gain traction, the once elusive search for Prester John takes on new meaning. What if the kingdom had never been lost, but instead intentionally obscured to preserve its own sovereignty? Ethiopia, with its long-standing Christian monarchy, could be using the myth as a tool to ensure its place in the complex web of European politics. The legend, once thought to be nothing more than a tantalizing story, could now be seen as a masterstroke of diplomacy. A tool used by the Ethiopian emperor to unite Europe under the banner of Christianity. The idea that Ethiopia is, in fact, Prester John's kingdom begins to spread like wildfire across Europe. Historians, explorers, and religious leaders begin to reconsider their earlier assumptions, piecing together clues that point to this Christian kingdom as the true home of Prester John. The Emperor of Ethiopia, once viewed with suspicion by Europe's powerful kingdoms, begins to emerge as a political genius, using the myth of Prester John to solidify his position on the world stage. As the truth slowly unravels, it becomes clear that Ethiopia, once a mere peripheral player in the affairs of Europe, has strategically embraced the Prester John legend to create a united front with Christian Europe. The emperor, understanding the power of the myth, has carefully woven the legend into the fabric of his political strategy. By aligning himself with the great powers of Europe, he ensures his kingdom's survival, using the myth as a bridge to form alliances, receive protection, and secure resources. What was once a legendary king in a far-flung kingdom is now understood to be a shrewd ruler whose game of diplomacy has cleverly manipulated the very forces that once sought to control him. The revelation shifts the course of the search for Prester John, as the myth that has inspired so many now becomes a powerful tool of political maneuvering, with Ethiopia at the center of it all. Topic 7. The Political Mastermind. As the theory that Prester John's kingdom is located in Ethiopia gains more traction, a startling realization begins to unfold. The once revered legend, which seemed like an external force shaping European politics, now appears to be a carefully crafted narrative, one that has been meticulously shaped by none other than the Ethiopian emperor himself. Far from being a passive figure in the myth, the emperor of Ethiopia emerges as the true mastermind behind the legend of Prester John. The emperor, understanding the immense power that the myth holds, realizes that by strategically embracing the legend, he can position Ethiopia as a key player in the complex game of European diplomacy. The myth of Prester John, an ancient Christian king ruling over a powerful kingdom, becomes the perfect tool to unite Europe's fragmented Christian powers. By positioning himself as the rightful heir to this legendary figure, the Ethiopian emperor secures not only a sense of legitimacy but also the support of the most influential European nations. The emperor of Ethiopia carefully orchestrates the propagation of the legend, fueling the fire of belief in Prester John's existence through letters, emissaries, and cryptic messages designed to keep the myth alive and growing. He expertly manipulates the European powers, feeding them just enough information to stir their curiosity while leaving the true nature of the kingdom hidden in mystery. The idea of an untapped Christian empire with vast wealth and influence becomes a beacon of hope and a symbol of unity for the fractious Christian kingdoms of Europe. As the emperor plays his cards, he begins to turn the legend of Prester John into a political weapon. With each new expedition to find the hidden kingdom, European powers become more invested in Ethiopia's success. The emperor, with his uncanny ability to remain in the shadows, cultivates relationships with key European leaders, slowly positioning Ethiopia as a necessary ally in the ongoing struggle between Christianity and Islam, between the East and the West. The emperor's brilliance becomes apparent as he successfully uses the myth to garner military support, form trade alliances, and secure military resources for Ethiopia. Europe's greatest powers, now believing that Ethiopia holds the key to Prester John's legendary kingdom, turn their attention to the Christian empire in the Horn of Africa. The emperor, always one step ahead, plays his role to perfection, never revealing the full extent of his plan but pulling the strings behind the scenes. The most shocking revelation comes when it becomes clear that the emperor is not merely a passive participant in the myth, he is the architect of the entire narrative. Far from being a naive ruler who believes in the legend, the Ethiopian emperor is revealed to have engineered the myth of Prester John from the beginning, shaping it into the powerful political tool that has allowed him to manipulate European powers for his own strategic gain. The myth was never a chance discovery or an accident. It was a deliberate, calculated move to ensure Ethiopia's survival and prosperity on the world stage. Tropic 8, The Great Deception. The search for Prester John, which had once consumed the hearts and minds of explorers, kings, and scholars alike, begins to unravel in a shocking twist. As more pieces of the puzzle come together, it becomes increasingly clear that the truth behind Prester John's kingdom is not what anyone had imagined. What was once a symbol of hope, salvation, and unimaginable wealth now begins to fade into something far darker. A carefully orchestrated ruse, a grand deception that has been carefully cultivated over centuries. Europe, which had been so fervently united in its pursuit of the mythical kingdom, is left reeling as the revelation dawns. The kingdom of Prester John, far from being a hidden Christian empire located in the far reaches of Asia or Africa, was never a distant, untouchable realm at all. It was a myth, a construction, and the true mastermind behind its creation was none other than the Ethiopian emperor, whose political ambitions had cleverly used the legend as a tool to manipulate European powers into supporting Ethiopia's own survival and growth. The entire search, with its countless expeditions and the endless hope of discovering riches, alliances, and divine favor, turns out to have been a mirage. The explorations, which took brave men to distant lands and untamed jungles, were nothing more than elaborate distractions. The kingdoms of Europe, obsessed with finding Prester John, had been played, fed false clues, manipulated by a myth that served the Ethiopian emperor's strategic goals. The promises of gold, knowledge, and an alliance with a mighty Christian kingdom were all part of an illusion, a game designed to shift the balance of power in Europe's political landscape. As the truth leaks out, a sense of betrayal spreads throughout the continent. Explorers who had dedicated their lives to the search, kings who had staked their political futures on the existence of Prester John, and the common people who had pinned their hopes on the salvation promised by the legend, all are left to confront the shocking reality that they have been duped. The myth that had inspired so much ambition, fueled so many quests, and offered a vision of a united Christian front against Europe's enemies was nothing more than a clever ploy. Twist. The most gut-wrenching twist comes when the full scope of the deception is revealed. Prester John's kingdom, it turns out, was never hidden away in some remote corner of the world. It was fabricated from the start, a tool of political manipulation crafted by the Ethiopian emperor to secure power and resources from Europe. The emperor had long ago realized that the legend of Prester John, with its promise of power and unity, could be used to his advantage. His entire empire's survival was built on the myth, and as Europe scrambled to find the kingdom, Ethiopia quietly reaped the benefits. Europe, shaken by this monumental revelation, now faces the consequences of its blind pursuit of a false dream. The legacy of Prester John, once a symbol of Christian unity and hope, becomes a bitter reminder of how easily ambition and desire for power can be manipulated, leaving the continent divided, questioning the truths they once held dear. Tropic 9, The Revelation. As the final pieces of the Prester John puzzle fall into place, the world watches in stunned silence. The truth behind the legendary kingdom is revealed in its entirety, shattering the dreams of countless explorers, kings, and dreamers who had believed in its existence for centuries. The kingdom of Prester John, once imagined as a far-flung realm of riches and divine power, was never real. There was no hidden empire, no treasure-laden kingdom waiting to be discovered. The whole pursuit, its countless expeditions, its resources, and the great ambition that fueled it, was based on a myth, carefully crafted and perpetuated by the Ethiopian emperor himself. In a breathtaking twist, it becomes clear that the Ethiopian emperor's use of the Prester John legend was not just clever, it was brilliant. The emperor had understood the immense power of this myth from the beginning, and he had expertly woven it into the fabric of European politics. By allowing the legend to take root in the minds of powerful European leaders, he had secured alliances, military support, and vital resources that ensured the survival and prosperity of his own kingdom. What Ethiopia lacked in military might and territorial expansion, it gained through the illusion of Prester John's kingdom. A legendary power that seemed to hold the keys to Europe's salvation. While the kingdom itself was never more than a fabrication, the legend itself had done more for Ethiopia's influence than any real empire could have. The emperor's ability to manipulate Europe's desires for alliance, wealth, and religious unity allowed Ethiopia to punch far above its weight, securing protection from European powers and resources to bolster its defenses. The Prester John myth, cleverly wielded, ensured that Ethiopia was not just a distant, overlooked kingdom, it became a key player on the world stage. Twist: the true legacy of Prester John is not in the existence of his kingdom, but in how the myth reshaped Europe's political landscape. The legend had stirred Europe into action, influencing key alliances and shaping the course of exploration. It had brought Europe's Christian kingdoms closer together under the banner of shared faith and a common goal, forging an imagined unity that would later fuel European expansionism and colonial endeavors. The idea of Prester John had even contributed to the spread of Christianity, reinforcing the notion of a unified Christian front stretching across the globe. The Prester John myth, which had once promised to unite the Christian world against common enemies, had instead united Europe's powers through deception, reshaping the continent's future. In the end, Prester John's kingdom, though never real, had altered the trajectory of history more than any actual empire ever could. The myth's impact on alliances, exploration, and religious expansion remains one of the most profound and enduring legacies of the Middle Ages. Tropic 10, the legacy lives on. As the dust settles and the truth of Prester John's kingdom is revealed, the legend that once captured the imagination of explorers, kings, and commoners alike begins to fade into the annals of history. The fabled kingdom, the dream of a powerful Christian king in a distant, unknown land, was never real. But the impact of the myth lingers, haunting the corridors of power and exploration for centuries to come. Though the dream was shattered, the story it inspired continues to shape the course of European exploration, politics, and religious movements. In the years following the revelation, Europe's geopolitical landscape shifts. The myth of Prester John, though a deception, had achieved something far greater than anyone expected. It had united fractured Christian kingdoms, created alliances that might never have formed otherwise, and provided a rallying cry for the exploration and colonization of distant lands. The desire to find Prester John, whether driven by religious zeal, political ambition, or a quest for riches, had fueled European expeditions across the globe. Even after the truth was unveiled, the myth had already accomplished what it was meant to. It had stirred Europe into action, cementing the idea of a united Christendom and setting the stage for the age of exploration. At the same time, the Ethiopian emperor, who had crafted the Prester John myth to protect his kingdom, now finds that his political survival is secured. Europe's powers, having invested so much in the belief of a hidden kingdom, now see Ethiopia as a powerful Christian ally. The emperor's careful manipulation of the legend ensures that his kingdom is no longer overlooked but seen as a strategic partner in the ever-shifting balance of power. In this sense, the legend was not just a means to an end, it became an enduring symbol that safeguarded Ethiopia's Christian monarchy for generations, ensuring its place on the world stage. As time goes on, the name of Prester John fades into the past, but the legacy of the myth endures. It lives on in the chronicles of history, in the pages of books about exploration, in the hearts of those who dreamed of finding a hidden kingdom. The very name of Prester John has become a symbol, of hope, of ambition, of a dream that transcended reality. Twist: the final, poignant twist comes as it is revealed that the legend of Prester John, though based on a fabricated myth, ultimately succeeded in achieving the one thing it was created for. It ensured that the name of Prester John would never fade from history. The myth may have been a tool of political manipulation, but its impact was so profound that it became a permanent part of the historical fabric. Prester John's name, tied forever to the dreams and deceptions of the past, continues to echo through the centuries, a testament to the power of a story well told and a legend that would never die.